Hey, it's Mike here, and today I'm responding to Abbey Sharp's recent oil video where she advocates against an oil-free diet, really defends oil consumption, and spends a good portion of her 20 minutes painting olive oil as a health food.
I am definitely on team oil when it comes to heart health.
In addition, she really skims over, downplays the heart disease reversal ability of an oil-free vegan diet, says things like butter is okay in moderation, fun stuff like that. Let's go. I don't want to poison the well too hard because I want to focus on her claims, but Abbey Sharp is a dietitian who sort of carved out a niche on YouTube where she reviews or judges what vegans eat in a day, and no, she is not vegan in case you're wondering. Who thought there would be a market for judging vegans on YouTube? Now, I did notice that she seems to be responding to pretty much every single vegan with over 100,000 subscribers. You know, conveniently ones with a big following, and I was thinking maybe she'll respond to my eating patterns eventually and then I'll respond to her, but no, she hasn't yet, so I'm just going for it. Anyway, before releasing her oil-specific video, she was reviewing what Derek Simnett, an awesome vegan YouTuber, eats in a day. He was talking about how he doesn't eat oil, and here is what she says in that video.
Personally, I just think this is an overly restrictive food rule that can interfere with a lot of social aspects of eating and food.
She then followed up in her main oil video asking the question,
is the vegan oil-free diet beneficial for health or just another form of extreme restrictive eating?
And especially toward the end of the video, as we'll get to, she really seems to be painting this, at least in my interpretation, as an eating disorder, that oil-free eating in general is disordered eating. Anyway, backing it up, she talks about these
all of the convincing claims out there and hot bodies promoting the oil-free diet.
Oh, Abby, I'm flattered. No, we all know that she's talking about Derek Simnett's abs, and I wish somebody looked at me the way that Abby looks at Derek Simnett's abs in thumbnails. Abbey Sharp likes those sharp abbies. And I want to lay a foundation of my actual views on oil because they're often misconstrued. First of all, I obviously advocate against the idea that oil is a health food in general. I view it as a refined food that's on par with refined sugar. You know, the refined macro of fat is oil, carbs is sugar. And I do look at oils as a spectrum that varies in their level of refinement and composition in terms of how unhealthy they are, and then the same as different refined sugars of varying degrees of refining, from pure white sugar up to like date sugar. And I don't see why it's so hard for people to wrap their minds around viewing oil like they view sugar. That being said, I even have a video about people who should eat oil, people who need to put on weight, people with eating disorders, people at really low BMIs. Most people don't know I've said that. But back on the other hand, I also believe that excluding oil is a key component to a particular diet that is most effective at reversing severe heart disease. I want to pick up where she starts refuting the point that vegetable oils cause heart disease.
Now let's talk about the argument that vegetable oils cause heart disease.
This is definitely an oversimplification of cardiovascular oil points, but it's easier to refute if you make a little bit of a straw man out of it. Anyway, she goes on to say that she has a close family member who suffered from heart disease.
I have also lost family to heart disease, so when it comes to dietary recommendations for heart health, I do not mess around.
And that's completely understandable. And then she goes on and sort of touches on some claims that she appears to be skeptical about, like Dr. Esselstyn's claim that oil injures the endothelium, the artery lining.
According to Dr. Esselstyn, a vegan doctor and no oil advocate, oils negatively impact the cardiovascular system because they injure the endothelium.
And he does refer to this study, so it's clearly not only his view. She also mentions that other advocates say that it slows down blood flow and then causes heart disease somehow.
Other advocates likewise claim that oil slows down blood flow and increases the chance of cardiovascular disease. Interesting theory.
Now, I don't want to be self-centered here, but it kind of sounds like she's referring to an oversimplification of exact points that I have personally made, in particular, the idea of postprandial hyperlipidemia or after meal high fatty blood, which I also kind of refer to as sludge blood, and it's not just about slowing down the speed of blood flow. That's one part of it. It's how that increased fatty composition of the blood can actually mess with the natural negative charge of your red blood cells and cause them to no longer push each other apart and then end up sort of stacking like quarters, or as the researchers say, agglutinate together. It's also about that milkiness or lactescence, which appears to precisely coincide with angina episodes or chest pain in people with heart disease. Now, whether it's from animal fat or from plant-derived oils, this is probably why people have 4 times the risk of getting a heart attack shortly after they eat a rich meal. And notice the dismissive tone she used for that blood flow point, like the blood flow just slows down and causes heart issues, like some quack science, those witch doctors. Well, how about these witch doctors? The researchers who studied this and conclude that their findings suggest a single high-fat meal has detrimental effects on vascular health. And again, it's an oversimplification of this general oil concern that all oils cause heart disease. Now, some very likely do, like coconut oil. Others might just exacerbate it. Others might slow or impede the reversal of it, which brings me to a major distinction here, that there is a difference between causing heart disease and preventing the reversal of heart disease. From the literature, it appears that the only diet capable of reversing heart disease is a whole food, plant-based diet. The most effective appears to be Esselstyn's oil-free vegan diet, from where this whole no oil thing originated. It's funny how when she mentioned him, she didn't show any of the images from his trial of very impressive increases in blood flow or artery cloggage reversal, or the outcomes for the nearly 200 people put on the trial, the roughly 100 times lower incidence of heart attack and stroke in those that stuck on the diet versus those who failed. Obviously, it would be great to have massive control groups and everything, but this is the best we have. But he is taking people on death's door from cardiovascular disease and putting them on a super cautious diet that will hopefully reverse heart disease as fast as possible. I mean, he's even telling people to not eat nuts, and very few people are advocating for that in other contexts. And his principle here is that having less fat going through the bloodstream will hopefully help reverse any type of artery damage that is happening in these people. So no, this is not a diet designed for young people who might be at risk of eating disorders, but at the same time, looking to studies like this one, it appears that roughly 50% of healthy heart donating adults have coronary lesions. They have clogged heart arteries. So nobody should be shamed for trying to eat or advocate an oil-free vegan diet for heart health, especially when you consider that for roughly 95% of human history, nobody was eating oil. We only about 10,000 years ago started making oil on a notable scale, and even then, most people probably didn't have access to oil. And on the other hand, to flip it and review the diet that Abbey advocates and eats.
So in case you're wondering, with coconut oil, I'm totally cool with enjoying it in moderation. Same with butter, same with canola, same with basically anything else.
I'm sorry, but there is no clinical evidence that that diet would reverse heart disease, and absolutely butter in moderation has no chance of reversing heart disease. Anyway, I've talked too much. I'll keep letting her make her case.
Now, I diligently combed through the research on these claims, and one thing I did find, unsurprisingly, was the overwhelming amount of high-quality evidence on the cardiovascular benefits of oil, specifically olive oil.
Now begins the olive oil section, and I just have to make a major point here, and that is that animal fat is so strikingly bad for your heart that you can replace it with any plant fat and see an improvement. Take coconut oil. This meta-analysis I recently covered showed that it raises LDL, bad cholesterol, not good. But from this other study, it doesn't quite raise it as much as butter. So if you take a population and replace their animal fat intake with any plant source of fat, say olive oil or another oil, then they're going to improve, and that sums up the majority of studies that she cites on olive oil. For example, she links to a study literally comparing various oils directly to butter, and of course they lower LDL. Being better than butter is not a high bar. It's not a high stick. Yes, I'm lame. Follow me on TikTok. But over and over again, people, vegans and non-vegans, fallaciously apply this principle to a vegan population, in particular, that if you were to give an oil-free, whole food vegan population oil, like olive oil, that they would be completely fine or better. We simply don't have studies answering that question. Now, there's no shame in including olive oil in your vegan diet, far from it, but there's also no reason to be shaming people who are trying to eat oil-free to prevent or reverse heart disease. She really tries to drive home the antioxidant point a lot throughout the video, saying that the polyphenols in particular in olive oil are beneficial for artery health, but how high is olive oil in antioxidants anyway? Looking at the ORAC value, which is a food's ability to mop up free radicals, those that cause oxidative stress, the whole point of antioxidants in the first place, well, from this USDA paper, the antioxidant capacity of extra virgin olive oil, which she really harps on, is roughly half that of bananas, which aren't even really known for antioxidants. And I thought, let's try and find some really good Italian stuff from this study. The ORAC value is higher, twice as high, but still then again appears to be equivalent to just bananas. Not taking home any prizes. To eat the amount of antioxidants in a small banana with extra virgin olive oil, and trust me, nobody eats a small banana, you would have to eat 100 grams, which is 900 calories of olive oil. And maybe this is enough antioxidants to help somebody who's really, really suffering on a standard American diet, but to tell your average vegan who's eating a ton of plants, especially oil-free vegan, that they should be eating extra virgin olive oil, no. But maybe it's possible that those polyphenols are giving that extra virgin olive oil some extra advantage. Well, the reality is, looking to this study, I looked at a serving by serving basis of polyphenols, and berries just crush it here. By weight, blueberries kick ass with 2,000 to 2,200 milligrams per kilogram. And I want to be generous and ignore the lower readings I found in other studies and just go straight to the olive oil industry, who says that extra virgin olive oil, the high quality olive oil we love, generally is between 100 to 250 milligrams per kilograms of polyphenols. But a kilogram is a lot when you are talking about oil. But by contrast, blueberries are mostly water. A kilogram is not an insane amount, but let's just compare on a serving by serving basis. One serving of blueberries is 150 grams, which comes out to 315 milligrams of polyphenols. One serving of extra virgin olive oil, which is a tablespoon, which happens to be 13 grams and 120 calories, comes out to around about a measly 2 milligrams of polyphenols. To reach one serving of blueberry, sorry, I'm trying not to laugh. To reach one serving of blueberries with extra virgin olive oil, you would have to eat 138 servings or over 16,000 calories from that beautiful, pure extra virgin olive oil in one sitting. It gets worse. From this study that looked at polyphenol contents of various foods and ranked them, extra virgin olive oil is ranked so low that, get this, it is behind soy meat, also behind whole wheat. I mean, just general olives, whole olives were way higher up on the list. Why not just eat those? Why not? Have I made my point? Claims that you should include something that is 100% fat in your diet based on antioxidants with these numbers just does not seem logical. But moving on. Not only are the benefits that are often seen from olive oil actually likely just dropping animal fats and replacing them, it's also a marker of a healthier diet. People are told that it's a health food over and over again. They're told that it's what healthy people eat. So if they're trying to eat a healthy pattern, they include it. Directly from one of the studies that she linked, quote, "Olive oil is the hallmark of this dietary pattern, the Mediterranean dietary pattern." Olive oil is what we think of, but really it's increased whole plant foods through whole grains, legumes, vegetables, fiber, and lowering red meat consumption. Dr. Greger has a video on olive oil. He covers a study on this pretty well. Here it is.
In the largest prospective study ever to assess the relationship between olive oil consumption and cardiac events like heart attacks, there was a suggestion that virgin olive oil may be better than regular olive oil, but neither was found to significantly reduce heart attack rates after controlling for healthy dietary behaviors like vegetable intake, which tends to go hand in hand with olive oil intake.
So it's no surprise that when she's linking studies below touting the benefits of olive oil, they might be like this one, where if you actually look at the study, that olive oil is going to be completely drowned out by a wider Mediterranean diet pattern. She then makes quite an impressive claim.
A large prospective cohort study found that for every 10-gram increase in daily olive oil consumption, cardiovascular disease decreased by 10% and mortality risk decreased by 7%.
Or it's the power of plants replacing butter in particular. Because what this study did was it randomized people into 3 groups, 2 groups that were Mediterranean diet interventions, one that was given olive oil and the other that was given walnuts, and then another control group that was allegedly low fat. But it's pretty clear that the olive oil group here would be the only one that would have a dramatic shift in cooking fats, because that olive oil is going to be replacing butter, while something like walnuts will not. And then the major issue of how the control group, and this study has been criticized for this, was simply given some counsel on how to eat low fat and then sent off for 5 years. They probably ate a little less butter for a week, and then it was right back to their normal standard American diet. So no, the benefits in the study were not from olive oil. They were from increasing plant consumption and decreasing butter and meat consumption.
Ideally, you want to increase your HDL cholesterol, or the good cholesterol, and lower your LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol.
I have a whole video on how raising HDL won't save you. I'll link it below, but short list. Basically, if you take medication that increases HDL, it does not decrease heart disease risk, and people with genetically higher HDL do not see a benefit, unlike those with lower LDL or bad cholesterol who do see lower heart disease risk. And guess who has the lowest LDL of any diet group? Vegans. And when they don't have low LDL, it's often because they are including a bunch of oil, particularly probably coconut oil. Another point on olive oil, I just leave out a ton of literature on how normal olive oil impairs artery function or has some negative effect on heart health. But no one has been able to explain this study away on extra virgin olive oil showing a 31% reduction in artery function. They merely point to other population studies where animal fat was replaced with olive oil. Anyway, Dr. Greger goes more in depth on this artery olive oil issue. Now for another point that I've never mentioned before that I think is huge, and it sort of echoes Oceana's findings of how 20% of the global fish supply is actually mislabeled. There's fish fraud, and that is that a large portion of extra virgin olive oil is not even extra virgin olive oil. As this Forbes article mentions, a large supermarket test found that of the main selling olive oil brands, 73% did not meet legal standards for extra virgin olive oil. The FDA simply does not regulate the industry, and part of the olive oil industry wants them to regulate it so that they can make more money off of their real extra virgin olive oil. So even if you have good intentions telling people to eat extra virgin olive oil, there's a chance that it's like a large percentage of refined soybean oil or something nasty like that. You're probably not eating full extra virgin olive oil, I'm sorry. Now, I don't advocate for low-fat diets, really. I advocate for whole food diets, but this is where she really takes on the whole low-fat narrative.
Then there's the popular assumption that fat from vegetable oils makes you fat. When are we going to finally put the fat makes you fat argument to bed, folks?
Abby, you can put this argument to rest when you show that the human body has changed enough so that when you take a study like this and overfeed women with refined sugar, if you trace the fat, you still don't find that 90% of fat stores originated from fat eaten, even when massively overeating carbs. But it's clear that biochemically, the human body prefers to store fat because it is an energy storage mechanism. It is the most energy-dense food we have. It's technically the most effective obesogenic food, I'm sorry.
Though 1 tablespoon of oil for 100 calories may seem like a lot of calories, when you think about your total daily caloric intake, this amount is actually pretty negligible.
Well, actually, most people don't measure. They just kind of do this, and they could easily be eating more than that official tablespoon serving. And even if they are measuring that tablespoon and adding it to their cooking at lunch and dinner twice a day for a year, well, the results do add up. For somebody who's already reaching adequate calories, you're talking about, over the course of a year, an 87,000 calorie surplus, which is roughly the amount of energy in 30 pounds of fat. In a few years, this habit could make or break obesity. That's just a mathematical truth. Once you open up the oil dam, it's very hard to count exactly how many calories you're getting, and I don't think it's healthy to do that. Another strategy is to simply just not cook with oil at home, so that if you want to socialize in a world where we can do that when it happens, then you're not getting a lot of oil in your diet. You're just eating a small amount from restaurants. And this is where her claims get to dangerously off-base conclusions from studies.
And adding oils to food and cooking may actually aid in weight loss. One 3-year study found this actually to be true with a diet rich in olive oil.
First of all, she inaccurately says that it was a 3-year study. It was actually a 3-year follow-up. And once again, it was that same Predimed Mediterranean diet. It was the same participants from that study. So we have to ask, was it the increase in whole plant foods, legumes, whole grains, vegetables, fiber, and lower meat? Or was it the fact that they added olive oil, which is pure fat, that led to weight loss? I don't know. Do you honestly believe that if anybody just decided to add some olive oil, some pure fat to their current diet, that they would lose weight? That is actually a little ridiculous.
The truth is, a lot of weight loss and weight gain is kind of out of our control, and much of it has to do with her genetic makeup and socioeconomic factors.
Absolutely irresponsible claim here. Maybe it feels helpless when you're in a standard American diet framework, but looking to a study like the Broad study, which was an oil-free, whole food vegan diet, where people were allowed to eat as much as they want. According to the researchers, to the best of their knowledge, it was the most effective weight loss trial at 6 and 12 months of any diet that did not add exercise or restrict calories. These people were able to eat as much as they wanted. She goes on to talk about the negative effects of excluding oil on eating disorders and disorder eating behaviors. And yes, that is absolutely possible, but what is also a great effect on that is not having to worry about how many calories you eat, because fiber naturally regulates your appetite, unlike oil, which slips through your body's system uncounted. And I'll say it again, if you are a low weight, if you have an eating disorder that has gotten you there, oil is very likely your friend for the same reason that it could be the enemy for somebody who is obese. It's not black and white. And as for whether or not oil-free diets are eating disorders, I'll just put it straight out there. I do not think she would view a sugar-free diet as an eating disorder. I have a feeling she'd be completely fine with that, which I think is a complete double standard. Anyway, I feel like this video is getting really long, but in conclusion, olive oil is better than animal fat, and that will be reflected in population studies or trials where people are put on a Mediterranean diet, or butter and animal fat is replaced with olive oil or even other plant-based oils. But for a ton of the studies that she linked, it was the whole plant consumption that led to the positive results. It was not the added fat, especially when you consider the abysmal antioxidant content. Yeah, it's there, but it's, in terms of those polyphenols, a rung below soy meat. Come on, nobody is eating soy meat for antioxidants. You know, want polyphenols? Eat some blueberries. Can't afford blueberries? A single blueberry has a comparable amount of antioxidants to a whole serving of extra virgin olive oil. But most importantly, an oil-free whole food vegan diet appears to be the most powerful tool that we have on planet Earth for reversing humanity's leading killer from the inside out, with side effects such as weight loss and reversal of erectile dysfunction. So advocating against this powerful tool is, in my opinion, irresponsible until we have data showing that the same thing, including some oil of some type, leads to the same result. And we absolutely do not have that. And maybe some young women or men get caught in the crossfire of Dr. Esselstyn's no oil message and people like me who echo it. And I'm sorry if that has happened, but if you're looking at Abby's relatives, she talks about my relatives and others who have died of heart disease, they did not die from an eating disorder. So as hard as it is to hold both of these paradigms in your head moving forward, let's try and do that. Let's try and unclog some arteries, save some lives, and then also not let people get caught in the trap of disordered eating. And really removing animal products and oil from the diet of somebody with advanced cardiovascular disease is a really small price to pay compared to the gruesome alternative. And if I had to say something directly to Abby, I would just ask her, is it possible that your fear of going back into orthorexic eating patterns could actually be blinding you from what is arguably the most powerful tool in your dietitian profession, one that can reverse this disease? All right, that's it for today. Feel free to like, subscribe, don't follow me on TikTok, share this video, all that stuff. See you next time. Thanks for watching.